Hey everybody, Alex Kazora, SteelersDepot.com, back with some Pittsburgh Steelers preview and analysis, doing a free agency prediction for what Steelers go and what Steelers resign and return in 2023. Did this last year. My predictions in 2022, I thought came out pretty true, pretty accurate overall. I feel significantly less confident in 2023, but a lot of free agents to talk about. I'm going to go through all of them pretty rapid fire here about who I think stays and who I think goes. Starting here on offense and in no particular order outside of course, being on offense. Tight end Zach Gentry, I think he returns. I think he re-signs and stays with the Pittsburgh Steelers. His value is that big number 2 blocking tight end, more important to Pittsburgh than probably what will be to other teams. And I think with a strong tight end class in this draft, that'll keep down the number on Gentry and not create a Jesse James situation where the Lions come in and pay him a lot more money than what I thought he was going to get several years ago. So I think Gentry returns on a 2-year deal, roughly, $3 million per year. Fullback Derek Watt, 30 years old. I think he leaves at this point. His special teams value had kind of diminished. Still been a multi-phase guy, but only a couple tackles. Not that that's the singular way to evaluate special teamers, but the production overall had gone down. I think what Pittsburgh saw with Connor Hayward, you got that more versatile chess piece that can be in the boot game, receiver run game, even a little bit late in the year. I know Watt kind of became this 3rd and 1 short yardage ace up the sleeve, so to speak. But I think at this point, at his age, he's going to go. Running back Benny Snell football, I think he returns. I think he resigns for having that value as that niche special teamer, the number 3 back on this team. Could he want to try to explore going somewhere else, knowing that there really is no offensive role for him in Pittsburgh, and until and unless Najee Harris, Jalen Warren were to go down? Potentially, but I think Pittsburgh wants him back. Mike Tomlin loves Benny Snell football. I think he stays on a 1-year type deal. Offensive tackle Trent Scott, I think he returns as well. 1-year minimum type deal, no guarantee to make the roster in 2023, but will be here for the summer for some veteran tackle depth until reinforcements arrive. His relationship with Pat Meyer, they were together in Carolina, and then of course this past year, barely played tackle eligible work, 1 snap at right tackle, but I think he comes back just on a really minimum deal. Quarterback Mason Rudolph, one of the easy predictions here, barring a dramatic change with Mitch Trubisky. I believe Rudolph will be playing elsewhere in 2023. I think there's really no interest or desire on his part to return to Pittsburgh, where he became the number 3 last year and, really just only dressed for the one game when the Carolina game, I guess it was, when Kenny Pickett was inactive with a concussion. So Rudolph, try to be number 2 somewhere else, but that will not present an opportunity to do that in Pittsburgh, so he's gone. This one you may not even realize, but offensive guard Jesse Davis, a free agent traded over from Minnesota last summer. I think he leaves. He could come back like Trent Scott on that 1-year minimum deal, but I'll say he goes. And finally, wide receiver Miles Boykin. This one maybe could go either way, but I'll say he returns. He resigns that back end of the roster. Receiver, really more special teamer. Gunner, a big receiver in terms of, some heavy run personnel packages, 13 personnel to be that receiver, to be the run blocker. He may, again, like Snell, want to try to go somewhere else where there may be more of an offensive role for him, and he's not, just a pure special teams guy, which is essentially what he was this past year. But I think he liked his time in Pittsburgh, and I think he will resign. All right, flipping over to the defense, and we'll start with the big one here. Cornerback Cam Sutton. I think he does re-sign with the team. He is Pittsburgh's biggest and most expensive free agent by far. You do wonder if he gets a peek at free agency on Monday when that legal tampering period opens up, if he could just get blown away by a big deal from another team that's going to offer him, $14 million, $13.5 million per year. Would Pittsburgh pay that? We'll see, obviously. We'll find out. But I think Omar Khan, knowing that he is by far, Sutton, the most important free agent that Pittsburgh has right now, they don't want to let that guy go. Cornerback depth behind is weak, and although the draft is strong, relying on rookies alone is a dangerous game. So Sutton, just too much value. I think they find a way to get a deal done. Inside linebacker Robert Spillane, think he returns, kind of like Zach Gentry over the defense, more valuable to Pittsburgh than he is to any other team in the NFL. They know him, they trust him. He always finds a way to be the guy by the end of the year. They tried to replace him so many times. and he just ends up, soaking up all the snaps by season's end. So I think he's going to come back. Devin Bush, of course, like Mason Rudolph, is going to be out of here. I don't think Bush wants to come back to Pittsburgh at all, and I think Pittsburgh's more than okay just letting him go. It just didn't work out. I failed first-round pick. We'll see where he goes, and maybe it works out better somewhere else, but that place will not be Pittsburgh. Defensive lineman Larry Ogunjobi. This one, to me, is a difficult question, and there really has not been any talk, any buzz about will Ogunjobi go or stay. Really hardly any mention of him being a free agent at all, signing that one-year deal after the multi-year deal with Chicago fell through last offseason. This one I'm really struggling with, as you can tell, because defensive line is this team's biggest need. Chris Wormley, another free agent that has a torn ACL. We'll talk about him in a second. The defensive line class in this draft doesn't have a lot of options for Pittsburgh that may compel this team to really try to bring back an Ogunjobi. I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess he leaves. He goes somewhere else. I think it was kind of always thought to be a one-year deal thing whenever he signed initially. He had his moments in 22, but I thought he was hot and cold overall, especially against the run. Only 1.5 sacks. The pass rush, not quite as impactful as you would hope for, finishing the play. Had a toe injury, kind of battled some stuff. That probably impacted the tape a little bit, but he'll be another year older, getting close to 30. I don't think he wants another one-year deal. I think he wants a multi-year deal that he couldn't get when that Bears deal fell through because of the injury he suffered in the playoffs last year or 2 years ago. And so I think he wants 2 years, that one last chance to get paid. I don't know if Pittsburgh's going to want to commit, but it'll be interesting knowing the lack of depth they have, the lack of great options and plentiful options in the draft. There's some names, but not many of them. I do think, though, they will address defensive line, probably the biggest and the hardest in free agency, given some options out there in that big need. So this one is like 55-45, but I'll say Ogunjobi gone. Defensive lineman Chris Wormley, kind of an exception here. I think he comes back after the draft based on the health and the rehab he's going to go through. Pittsburgh, I think, definitely would have re-signed him had he not torn his ACL against Baltimore in Week 14. This one would have been a no-brainer, kind of like Robert Spillane. They're going to probably wait and see on the health and the rehab before making a move on him. He won't have interest until other teams get comfortable with where that knee is at. So I think he will come back, but this will not be immediate. This one will take some time. Nose tackle Tyson Alu-Alu. He's going to leave. He's going to retire. If he's not, he may have already retired and just told nobody about it. I don't know. But yeah, you can kind of tell he was done. He was kind of cooked with all the injuries he's had over the years, MCLs and ankle sprains and all that kind of stuff. So he will not be a Steeler in 2023. Safety Carl Joseph, kind of like Jesse Davis. He probably forgot Carl Joseph, a free agent. He's gone. Really no discussion there. Outside linebacker Malik Reed, he's going to be gone as well. Traded over from Denver last summer. Supposed to be the team's number 3 outside linebacker. Just didn't work out. Too small. You can't have a small outside linebacker and expect the guy to work and win in Pittsburgh. He couldn't play the run. He was inactive in both games against Baltimore, which kind of tells you all you need to know. Malik Reed, a poor decision, a poor move by Omar Khan. Inside linebacker Marcus Allen, I think he could come back. I think most people are sitting there saying good riddance, so there's no chance he's going to return. I think it's possible, especially when Devin Bush is gone. Some question marks about the depth and the just bodies in that inside linebacker room right now. I'll say he leaves, though. Maybe he wants to go somewhere else. A special teams guy, the up back, but not an incredibly irreplaceable type of guy. So this one, again, really could go either way. It's going to be a cheap contract no matter where he goes, but I'll say he leaves. I'm saving the 2 I've struggled with the most for last, and I'm going to start here with the starter at strong safety, Terrell Edmunds. I really, like Ogunjobi, have wrestled with the safeties a lot here in Edmunds and DeMonte Casey. I'll be a little different here probably. I'll say Terrell Edmunds leaves, and I just think, Pittsburgh has not always maybe treated him the best in the sense of declining his 5th-year option, which was a reasonable, kind of a no-brainer decision, but I'm sure Edmunds didn't love that. And then the 1-year deal they gave him, and I think they had offered him that 1-year deal pretty early in free agency, and Edmunds was the guy that kind of sat and weighed options, and it wasn't that Pittsburgh didn't necessarily want him back sooner than which he signed about a week before the draft last year, but I don't know. I just think they're kind of ready to move on, and I think Edmonds is kind of ready to move on and try something else. And if he can't get that 2-3 year deal that's going to try to, on paper at least, secure him in one place, then I think he is going to leave Pittsburgh. So this one really struggled, probably even more so than Ogunjobi. I personally would want to bring Edmonds back just to kind of fill that void. Something telling me says this guy's going to leave. And my final one here is, of course, safety Damontae Kazee, and I think he stays. And my thought overall here is that both guys won't leave, both guys won't stay. It'll be one or the other. And I think, for example, if Kazee knows Edmonds is re-signing, then Kazee probably says, well, I want to go somewhere else. I don't want to be kind of a sub-package, 60B, third down kind of guy. I want to try something else. And if Kazee's re-signing, Edmonds might say, well, maybe they have bigger plans for Kazee, and I'm going to go look somewhere else. So I think it's one or the other. I could be wrong about that, and I may very well be. In a couple of weeks, we'll know the answer to that. But I think it's either or here. The money really is negligible. Kazee might be cheaper by a little bit, but it's not going to make a difference here. I think they like what Kazee did whenever he came back after breaking his arm in the summer. Now, can he be this team's strong safety? I think is a question mark. He's physical and he's fearless, but does he have the size to consistently play in the box? Edmonds was in the box about, I think, 35% of the snaps in 2022, and does Kazee hold up to do that is a question. So, again, personally, and maybe I'm hedging here, but I would sign Edmonds, let Kazee go. I'm going to go against that in terms of what I predict will happen and say that Kazee stays and Edmonds goes, but something I'll really be watching. So those are my thoughts on Steelers free agency. Like I said, I am less confident in this group of names and their direction than I think I was a year ago with Juju, who I felt pretty strongly was going to leave, and things like that. So I think the easy ones in terms of what I expect to happen, I think Robert Spillane returns. I think Zach Gentry returns. I think some obvious names in terms of guys who leave, and Devin Bush and Mason Rudolph, those are pretty much layups. I think the biggest question marks are defensively with Larry Ogunjobi and the safeties Terrell Edmonds, Damontae Kazee, and we'll just see what happens with Chris Wormley based on the timeline of that knee and his general health. But D-line, Ogunjobi, and Edmonds at safety with Kazee is where I kind of sit there and say this thing could go either way. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know your Steelers free agent predictions. I will put in the comments a list of all the free agents, and you guys can reply and tell me who you think stays and goes, so you can get your own responses, and we'll see who turns out to be the most correct, the closest to the results in terms of what Pittsburgh does and does not do with their own pending free agents. Again, Monday, March 13th begins the legal tampering period where teams can talk to any pending free agent, and free agency officially begins where contracts can be signed on Wednesday, March 15th. That starts the official 2023 NFL season. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please like this video if you guys could, would appreciate that. Same with subscribing to the channel if you have not done so already. Again, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.